habit of thinking robbed you of your joy and your confidence? Hey there, I'm Danielle Zapchenk, and thank you for joining me today on the Parable Podcast. Meet strategic coach, business owner, and author Amy Kemp. She shares about how she recognized the patterns of her mind and how to combat them.
This is the habit of thinking that swings from fantasy to catastrophe. The same thing that gives me the miraculous ability to imagine a future that doesn't exist also has the risk of me swinging to catastrophe that isn't even close to true, robs me of my joy, robs me of my confidence, and my full presence in my life.
Here's my conversation with Amy Kemp. I am thrilled to introduce you to Amy Kemp. Amy is a friend of Hannah, who, if you are counting all of the episodes, she was from 121. She's a friend of mine, and I always enjoy when people connect us just to be able to hear more stories and get to know more people. So, Amy, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm so happy to be here. It's funny, Hannah used to babysit my kids. And so I remember when she graduated from college, I was like, I'm not sure this is acceptable for you to move on to adulthood because I really need your help in my house.
Yeah.
So she knows the ins and outs of our little Kemp Nation. That's what we call our family. But yes.
Gosh, I love it. I remember there was a babysitter that I had as a child, Tara. I don't remember what Tara's last name was, but she was the best. She was like the absolute best babysitter. And I remember when it was time for her to move on with her life, I'm sure she went to college and she was just amazing. And I was so grateful for...
Is adulthood really necessary when the parent is in need of a good babysitter?
Exactly. Yeah. And like once you find one, like you don't let anyone know about them. Just be like, she's mine.
Yep.
Well, Amy, I'd love to know, I'm a huge foodie. What kind of food is your go-to or just like your favorite meal that you enjoy eating?
Anything someone else cooks.
Okay.
Now, I say that kind of in jest, but I'm actually serious in that I don't enjoy the process of cooking. It is not my love, but I love to eat.
Yeah.
And I love when people take time and they love to cook. And I really appreciate it. I was at an event this weekend and I walked upstairs and I said to the host, I had been at their home before. I said, "Oh, is it the chicken tortilla soup? Did you?" And she said, "Oh, no, it's a different thing in the crock pot." So anyhow, the next day, same event, I come upstairs. She went and got all of the ingredients to make that soup just for me.
Yeah.
That was my favorite food because she did it with love and like because I asked for it and because I appreciated her cooking. So
there was a conference I was at a couple years ago and just like these ladies within the church, like they were in charge of all the meals. And I told the person in charge of it, I'm like, if you guys ever come back here, you need these ladies because they made these like orange lemon like cookies, but they were almost like the tops of muffins. They were great and they were just so sweet. I'm like, this is the best food I've ever eaten. Would you say that like is acts of service your love language or what is
words of affirmation from people I respect and admire?
Yeah.
I get a lot of affirmation from people that feel surfacey. That doesn't do it for me. Actually, some of the best feedback and the way I've received feedback is from people who do sound or cameras at events where I'm speaking. Because they don't have to say great job. They're just there in the background and people usually don't even pay attention to them because they took the time. And that's my love language is that the person who it really impacts, that they don't have to say anything, but they do, or it's really meaningful.
That's a good point. I like that. Yeah. Not having a surface level. Yeah. Cause it's easy to be like, great job. And then, or after a message, you're like, oh, that was awesome. But I kind of like okay, so
really?
what part
was
connected
awesome?
With you? Like, or like when they just say, I love a personal style look. When they say like, I loved your outfit. I'm like, but did you listen to anything?
True story.
That's what I was caring about. Yeah. You share about success often. You're a business coach. What would you say within the last year has been something that you are really proud of, that you would say like, this was a great success?
I published my first book and I think it's important to note that this book I've been writing for 25 years.
Okay.
It's not like, I mean, I've been writing it in that the content of the book, I've been working with women for 25 years, and it has been developed over that time, right? It's been tried and battle tested and used and refined. And when I say I've been writing it, I wasn't actually writing it, but I was working it out. I finally had the capacity, given all of my responsibilities outside of work, to get it onto pages. And I will say this, if there are moms listening, that the reason I was able to do it now is because my kids are older. It sounds silly, but it is sort of a practical thing where the energy it takes to raise tiny humans, I just didn't have the energy to do this much of a creative endeavor. So the process is what I really am proud of, though. The process of working through the writing with my writing coach, the editing with the publishing company that I was working with, just the long seeing it throughness felt a little bit like pregnancy and then birth. And then now I have a 1-year-old where I've launched it and I've gotten it to be 1 year old.
Yeah.
And so I see you, I feel like, is like my little 1-year-old now, where it's getting a little more independent and it's standing up on its own. But it took so much to that first year. So I'm really proud of what I've invested in it and the way it's serving my reader.
I was just talking to a friend yesterday. She's kind of just starting out her ministry. She has little ones, and we were talking. Somebody has to go. They're like, "Mom, I got to go poop." This is where she's at. And I'm like, she's just doing a good job. And it feels overwhelming and long. And like, is this ever going to happen? Yeah, just to be encouraged to know that this is a process. And I feel like all of these pieces that you're gaining knowledge in and wisdom, like you're building this arsenal of so many things you get to use later in life. Even though we're in a culture like, let's do it now. It feels long, but yeah. Okay. Amy,
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about, what you do day to day, what you're passionate about?
Absolutely. The work I do now feels sacred to me. I use an assessment tool that's called the Habit Finder. It measures subconscious habits of thinking. So imagine unzipping your head, looking inside your brain, and being able to see where the pathways have been carved deeply into your brain, where you're at risk of falling into certain habits of thinking. We aren't aware of this. Most of it's designed because we're hardwired to survive. But this tool, the reason I love it, is sort of the scripture, like, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, is that our thoughts are not us. We aren't our thoughts. We are completely separate from them, but they impact us on a day-to-day basis. So the most simple way that I describe it is that I work clients in small groups and one-on-one through this assessment tool and curriculum to help them replace the habits of thinking that are not creating the outcomes they want in their life with ones that really are more generative, more creative, more fulfilling, that will help them create what they want. We want to get rid of all the noise that's preventing you from moving forward. Particularly women, we have a lot of noise in our head all the time. So the work I do is like turning down the volume of the noise so that then you can just create. You can just move forward and not have all of this noise.
So I feel that like the noise has to be removed. I know, like, anytime I go into just regular work, or I go into a retreat or a space where I'm just like meant to listen, it takes me a while to really turn it off or just turn down the volume. What would be like one of your ideas or an encouragement of like helping us to try to tune that down for ourselves day to day?
This is a very simplified version, but it's recognition that that's just a thought. There is a separation there, and that feels so empowering once you understand it. Once you say, oh, that's not me. That's just my habits of thinking getting really loud because something has come up that is, setting that habit off. Or this situation, I tend to be at really high risk of this habit of thinking kind of. I think of it like the game Chutes and Ladders, the children's game, where if you land on that square, you're going to slide down that slide. And so the awareness is in, oh, I'm on that square. I can choose whether I slide down that slide. And if I do, I recognize, oh, that was the slide. There it was.
Yeah.
But it's so empowering to know, oh, this is just my habit of thinking. This is not me.
That is true. Yeah. As we think through our thoughts in our mind, this whole podcast is about stories. It is a way for us to kind of reflect back and look through, okay, here's the way that God has walked alongside me throughout my life. So, Amy, I'd love for you to share with us one of your own parable stories.
Sure. As I was preparing, and I had many, but the one that I feel most drawn to share connects to both the creative process of my book, but also to this idea of habits of thinking. I think it's a really great illustration of how these habits of thinking impact us, but particularly me. So one of the measurements in the assessment tool I use tells me that I have a mind that is very active. I'm always thinking. But not only that I'm thinking a lot, I think I have the ability, God has given me the ability to vividly visualize what it is that I want to create. So not only can I see it maybe out in the future, but I can see it so clearly that if you hooked my body up to monitors, it would respond as if the thing was actually happening.
Wow.
This is a gift. It is a gift to be able to do that. It's something that only human beings can do, actually, makes us unique from animals. That being said, there's also a risk inherent in it. I think of it sort of like a fire hose with a heavy brass nozzle, where if you are pointing it at a fire and you're using it for good, it does a lot of, we want that fire hose. If you lose control and it's flopping around, you can really hurt yourself. Most people we know, based on research and this assessment tool, we know that most people who are entrepreneurs have this same habit of thinking, and 98% of them are using it in unhealthy ways every single day. So here's the story. When you publish a book, a lot of people don't know this. There's a pre-order phase of a few months. This pre-order phase, the author cannot see the dashboard that tells you how many books have been sold. But you can see Amazon rankings. You can hear anecdotal feedback from people who have pre-ordered the book and maybe I ordered the book, and they're celebrating on social media or wherever. Yeah. In addition, the way that my book happened to launch into the world, people were starting to get the book in that pre-order phase a little bit earlier than what we anticipated. So on the day that the book launches, that's when the publishing company opens that dashboard to you and you can actually get in there and see. Well, during that pre-order phase, I had so vividly, I wish I could describe it, and I'm not even sure that I was aware it was happening, created a number of books that I thought would have sold. I've never published a book. I have no experience in the publishing industry. I have no idea how I landed on this number. It was an arbitrary number. Yeah. Again, I don't even know where I got it from. But in my mind, I was building this world in which I would open the computer and I would feel like a success as an author, and I would celebrate, and my shoulders were back and I was smiling. And I really lived in this fantasy that I had created. And then I began to use it as a condition for happiness and feelings of success. So I attached my own joy, my own feeling of value to this imaginary scenario, right? This number, this arbitrary number, which again, wasn't even based on data. Okay. So the day comes where I have a meeting on Zoom with the publishing company. Very nice woman from the publishing company is going to walk me through how to use this dashboard that I now have access to. I open the screen. I'm feeling all kinds of excited, anxious, nervous energy around it. And she's walking me through. It took forever. She's going through every detail. I'm like, I just want to get to the bottom line. I've been in sales. I know how this works. I want to see the number. So she opens it up finally to that page and she says, here's the number of books that have sold. And it's about a third of my number. And when I tell you that I experienced a crash, it was of epic proportions inside. Heart racing, stomach clenched, sweat, like just a warm, just feeling hot and like, and we know this scientifically, as if I was actually being attacked by a bear. My body is having the same reaction. It's fight or flight, right? It's just panic. And my brain goes from fantasy of this number to total catastrophe, which is, why did I even write this book? I'm a loser. I should have not ever, I mean, it goes so quickly to like, this was the worst decision of my entire life. And I'm spinning in it. Just spinning. Have you ever had this happen where you're
yes.
spinning? Okay.
Yes. You are not alone.
You're responding as if you're understanding this so deeply. So I am spinning. And this was probably like that whole evening. I wasn't fully present at home. I was spinning, feeling bad, just feeling kind of sick about it. The next day, I walk out into the kitchen. My 18-year-old, who is 6'5", he's enormous, is standing in the kitchen and he says, Mom, did you find out how many books you've sold? Because we had talked about, I didn't know, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah. And I kind of looked down and I just said, I'm so disappointed. The number was so much lower than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And he kind of cocked his head and looked at me and he said, isn't it like the second day? And in a second of him saying that, I recognized, this is the habit of thinking that swings from fantasy to catastrophe. The same thing that gives me the miraculous ability to imagine a future that doesn't exist also has the risk of me swinging to catastrophe that isn't even close to true, robs me of my joy, robs me of my confidence and my full presence in my life. And so this recognition, this is the celebration of it to me. I was able to catch it in 2 days, whereas before that may have lasted months in my experience. I may have lived in that feeling of disappointment, discouragement. And then the worst part is that you do the sucker punch to your self-esteem, which is, what's wrong with me that I even tried to do this in the first place, right? And so it's this cascading habits of thinking that lead to an outcome that damages our self-esteem. I think this is why I believe in the work I do so much. I think God put us here to create things. We were created, and so I think we were created to create, to allow, I would call it the Holy Spirit, to move through our unique gifting and out into this world. What I'm passionate about is that our habits of thinking don't interrupt that flow, that we are not with these habits of thinking slowing, because if I would have taken 2 months to feel bad about that, guess what I would not have been doing are millimeter steps that actually sell books, right? That actually move me toward the arbitrary number, which I had attached as a meaning of success and happiness and is ridiculous anyhow, right? So that's the story I want to provide today, just as an illustration of the power of our minds and how our habits of thinking impact us.
So Amy, you're saying that prior to understanding these habits of thinking, that you could have been in this situation for days, like in your head, not recognizing, really like this is kind of like a demonic force, if you will, like to go to immediate catastrophe and then just live there. Is that what it was?
It's like a misuse of your God-given gifts, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like the shadow side of this gift to be able to see things vividly that I just feel like we've got to be aware of.
Yeah, I loved what you said about the fire hose of like how you can really be specific in it. And then if you're just kind of like letting it fly all over, it can be really harmful. And I think that's helpful for all of us to really be mindful of the gifts. Are you familiar with the Enneagram at all? Yeah. So like there's like that opposite part of like when we are living in stress, the not so great parts. I mean, it's really just the humanness that come out. How do you continue to combat that for yourself?
In this specific habit of thinking, it's not bad to have the number. I'm not suggesting that you don't have a goal. You can go to that goal even on a daily basis and imagine it. That's not a misuse. Here's the difference. attaching your feeling of value to it, attaching your feeling of success to it, attaching your happiness to it, very dangerous, right? But also, when you go to that vision, are you coming back to today and doing the millimeter steps of creation?
Yeah.
Meaning, like, God has given you this lump of clay. Are your hands in it? And that's the risk. It wasn't that I had the disappointment even. It was that the disappointment caused me to not even have my hands in my clay for 12 hours where I stopped doing the millimeters of creation because I was so swirling in my own thinking. But the millimeters are so small. Nobody sees them. They're pretty like boring, but they create. That's how you create. And so letting those habits of thinking rob you of that creative process is the tragedy.
Yeah. Amy, when you start using the word creative process, like I know what that means for me, but sometimes people get caught up with the word creative because they're like, well, I'm not artsy, you know?
That's funny. I don't even think of it that way anymore, but yes.
Yeah. So tell me how that transition of thought would be helpful for the listener if they're just like, gosh, well, I don't paint. So like, what does that mean?
Oh, this is classic. You create families, you create relationships, you create marriages, right? Obviously, we create in professional pursuits. But even thinking about this example of being a parent, for example, I might build a mental construct of what I think being a mom is, or being a good mom, or what I think my child is going to be like. And then they're born, right? And I've attached all of this feeling to what makes me a good mom. They listen. This is me. They listen. They do what they're told. They're obedient, right? And then I have my third child. Well, when he was born, the doctor said, woo, he shot out of there like a rocket. And I am telling you, he continued. And so I had all of this attachment to what it meant to be a good mom. Right. And then it just gets blown up by the reality of this child that's showing up in the world so differently. And what's my experience with that? That's creation, right? That's a creative process. I'm in the process of creating an experience for my child as a parent. So I think we're all creating no matter what our roles are. It's not a orchestra that we're creating necessarily, though some people do.
Yeah. That's so good. I don't think sometimes we even recognize and name like, hey, I'm living in this fantasy. It's hard to kind of just recognize and reconcile. Like you've created something that is either unattainable or like, and also just like never speaking it out loud. I'd be interested to know when you do this habit finder with your clients in small groups, once people are able to share that verbally, does that help them? Because you have this sense of accountability to recognize, oh, okay, like this is why I do this. And it helps people open up and be held accountable.
It doesn't mean that the habits of thinking still don't show up. It means that you catch them, you're able to observe them from a distance faster and make a different choice faster, move in a different direction faster, get back into creation faster. So again, wherever that is. And I think also staying out of catastrophe. I tell this story in the book about this third child. He's a bright light. I'm telling you, he's either going to be a meteor or, whatever. But one day I was walking through my kitchen and I hear this, it's a summer day, and I hear this like, hoo, 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 like chanting, and I look in the back and on the trampoline, here's Andrew. He's in the middle of this pack of boys and they've got the hose and he's like got his head back like a rock star. He's like spraying the hose in his mouth and like he's doing some sort of keg stand at a frat party, right? And immediately I'm standing there and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to be in college. He's going to go have alcohol poisoning. He's going to go to the emergency room. I'm going to, I just go right to catastrophe, like immediately, right? I'm just the worst case scenario because I fast forward. That's at 9. What does that look like when you're 18? So anyhow, but this is an example of like, the creation process where the catastrophe, then if I'm all panicked and then I'm clamping down on him because I'm like panicked in this catastrophe in my parenting, it's not going to serve us well. But that's all my thinking. That's on me. I'm the one going to catastrophe. He's just having a great time with his friends, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like that whole process, I think it's just one example. But yes, when people are freed up to recognize it, name it, they can then make a different choice. When you have language to describe it, then you can make a different choice.
Gosh. Okay. So our youngest Reed is 12 and he is fun, like adventurous, crazy. And I do the same thing sometimes. Like, I can't remember what he was doing. Oh, he just like, he's very impulsive in some ways, or like he wants to just utilize his small amount of money that he has. And so he's like, I'm going to save this. But then literally 2 days later, he's just like, oh, I'm going to buy this $60 sweater. And I just am like, well, if we don't teach him like how to save money, like he's going to like run up his credit cards and like he's just going to go nuts someday.
You've already got him in bankruptcy court and he's, 12.
He's 12. Yeah. And I'm like, I totally hear that.
You can go to the catastrophe and say, let's do a little teaching here about impulse control. It's not that you can't go to the catastrophe for information, to come back to the millimeters of parenting the child who's right in front of you, right?
Yes.
That's the difference, is like your brain can go there. Yes. And it does to protect you a little bit, but living there and taking it to the nth degree doesn't serve anyone. And it definitely doesn't serve you.
Yeah. All right. Well, Amy, also, I would be interested to know, have you seen this in a difference of the male or the female, like psyche and how their brain works? Is there a difference, or have you noticed it's about the same? It's just dependent on how the person responds to the habit tracking.
So there are certain habits of thinking that I see show up for women a lot. I think that's sometimes just cultural kind of conditioning. One in particular, obligation. A lot of have to, need to, shoulds drive the behavior of women.
Yeah.
They are deeply motivated by obligation and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's heavy. It doesn't create passion in our creation. It just creates resentment. So I do see some measurements that lean more heavily, but then I also see men who maybe are single dads who have a lot of the same measurements. So it's not gender specific, but I do think experiences can impact it for sure.
Yeah. Amy, you said that you had been writing this book for the last 25 years and that it has been battle tested. And this was like a big writing process for you. And to finally see it through, what was your heart and intention? Was it this idea of habits, or was there something more to this book?
Quick story to answer the question.
Yeah, I love a story.
The title, because this really captures the core message of the book, is that you can't outwork your thought habits. The title is I See You. So I met a woman from our community at an event briefly. She is successful. She has a seat at some very important tables. Her decisions impact thousands of people in our community. I liked her right away. So I reached out and said, would you like to have a cup of coffee? We met at a coffee shop. I asked tons of questions just to get to know her. I just really wanted to know her. About 55 minutes, and she abruptly and kind of brusquely interrupts me and says, why did you invite me to coffee?
Oh, wow.
And I said the first thing that came to my mind, which was, because I see you. And she put her head in her hands and wept. And it felt like for a very long time. And then she sort of sat up and she wiped her eyes and she collected herself and she said, thank you. So few people do.
Yeah.
And so the reason I didn't write this book about something, I wrote this book for someone. And it's that woman that everyone sees her, but no one really sees her. And she's important to me.
Yeah, there's been many women that I've known that, like, it's almost like when you ask them to do stuff, it's like, because they're expecting that you want something from them. You know, it's really a transactional thing, when in reality, at least from my perspective, I'm like, I really want to get to know you. Yeah, that's
and in her world, probably that's why most people want.
Absolutely.
You know, she has power. She has she can make things happen. And so of course people come to you wanting things.
Yeah. In addition to that title of like, I see you, you know, as the reader walks through this book, what would be, you know, the biggest takeaway that you would want them to just feel after reading it?
There are some themes in the book around unpaid labor. Women in particular do most of the unpaid labor in our world. That labor is exceptionally important in building strong communities and families. We underestimate the amount of energy that it takes to do it. And we don't take that into account when we are pursuing goals and we are also ambitious. And so the acknowledgement of that unpaid labor, there's an unpaid labor survey that you take to figure out how much you're doing. And again, it's not a judgment on it. It's just factual and recognition. There's a chapter on money and our relationship with money, particularly for women. This is a fraught topic. Also, boundaries, not just with people and relationships, but boundaries with our goals. In order to have a healthy relationship with anything, it requires boundaries. And so you can't forget the fullness of your life when you're setting your goals. And in order to have a healthy relationship with them, it's essential that those goals have boundaries on them. So I want to increase my income by $10,000 while also visiting my mom at assisted living on every Friday when I'm not working, you know, or it's having some framework around that. Many people, especially clients, have just said that the book feels like a coaching session with me. So it's a very accessible way for anyone to experience that. I just had a call with someone today who just finished the book, actually. And she said, I can't get myself to do the questions in chapter 3 yet, but I'm getting there. You know, so she was like working her way up to it. But it is designed to be an interactive experience. This is not a book of like an expert coming in to give you a bunch of knowledge. I'm really interested in you discovering things on your own through it.
Amy, this is so good. I'm very interested in your book and just to see what like people, you know, it's like those mindset things that, like you said, with habits, you don't even recognize the expectations, the limitations, all of the things that are going on in that brain of ours, which is beautiful and wonderful. But there's like that mental energy. You're like, wow, there's a lot going on up there. So thank you so much. I have a theory.
This is my last thought. This is a new one too. We are exposed to so much information right now compared to any other time in history that the care for our brains, I believe, is going to become a top priority. I think that's why we're in a mental health crisis, because of the access, because of the busyness of our minds. And taking care of your mind, to me, is going to become one of the most important practices, like a spiritual practice, because of the way we're living. So I think it's vital.
I mean, amen to that. I fight it myself. Like, it's almost like if I just want to know anything, I can just Google it. Any like little like fact that I don't really need in my life, but I'm like, I have to know it in order for me to go to bed. So,
we do it all the time. Hey, Siri, you know, whatever.
So that's so helpful. It's almost like a prayer mindset of like, God, help me to just like release the things that are not of this world and not necessary, so we can, you know, walk through it day to day. Well, Amy, if people wanted to get connected to you or grab I See You, how can they best do that?
The book is available anywhere that you purchase books: Barnes & Noble, Amazon, bookshop.org. And it's also in Audible in my voice. Yay, so you can listen. A lot of my readers are listeners. But really the easiest way, my Instagram is Amy Kemp Inc., but my website is my name, amykemp.com.
Great.
And that's the best place. There's some fun resources about the book. You can take the Habit Finder for free there and really learn more about my work and what I do and how I serve the world.
Awesome. Well, blessings to you, Amy. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Parable Podcast.
Thank you.
Gosh, I really enjoy finding new ways to better understand how my brain is wired. And I'm thankful for Amy's work and her sharing with us today. If Amy's story really resonated with you, could you do me a favor and recommend the Parable Podcast? Word of mouth, it still matters. And so I would greatly appreciate you sharing it with a friend today. To connect with Amy, simply visit daniellezapchenk.com for details. And here are 2 reflection questions from our time with Amy. Number 1, spend 5 minutes today honing in on removing the noise like Amy talked about and turning down the volume. Like Amy said, it's going to be the recognition of the thoughts that empower us more as we move forward in our day. Number 2, if you could put it into words, what is the thought that is robbing you of joy and confidence? This episode was edited by my tremendous husband, Eric Zapchenk, and we hope you were encouraged to think about your own parable story. Remember, your parable showcases how God better wants to understand your brain, and so it can connect with Him. See you back again next week on the Parable Podcast.